Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Daily Dreamer. So, I had a dream, as I always do, and it was exciting to say the least. And I'm going to read that to you, the notes of it. It's interesting because when I go into a dream state, I do a couple different things, usually at night before I drift off. I will actually start a meditation beforehand and then go into the dream realm because that's always fun and exciting with messages that you get. Some of them can be very distorted if you're not out of your own head, but some of them can be very enlightening nonetheless. So that's always fun. Or the other way, which is just as beneficial, is that after I wake up from a dream state, I will be writing, and then I go into a meditation, which is cool. Because a lot of times when those two coincide for me, I get messages that are very powerful. So, this particular evening, what was on my mind when I laid to rest was how to deal with something. Because we all understand that meditation and dreams are having to do with the self. And so, in further wanting to, advance myself in the opening of connection for myself on my higher consciousness, I asked how I could be a better vessel, if you will, or how am I able to connect a bit better for myself. And what came to me was something about desires. And it's interesting because what was written, okay, in that meditative state was this, okay, in regards to my desire that I want to be a better vessel, if you will, and in desires of earthly realm, things that I like, chocolate, a soda, desires can be anything that you find that are comforting to you. That drink, that beer, that cigarette, whatever it is, what apparently I needed to pay attention to in order to make myself a better vessel or vehicle or channeler or whatever you want to call it to connect my higher consciousness. It came through as though I needed to pay attention more so to my desires. Okay, well, I didn't really understand it, but in my meditative state, I get my readings, I get my writings, I get all kinds of things. So this was the download that I received in regards to desires. So I'd like to share that with you. I have to watch my time. We're at 3 minutes and 42 seconds, so I'm going to try and make this quick. Because I also want to share the dream that went with it afterwards because, wow. Anyways, desires. The mind is a powerful thing, both on the conscious level and on the subconscious level. But how can we change our thoughts? It's so simple, right? Now, how can we turn that back around to create an environment that is essential and comfortable for our own mental health well-being, if you will? How do we control our thinking, if you will, to manifest our reality to what we want it to be? How do we do that? Well, I don't know how to say the entity's name, the collective group that came to me with this. So I'm only going to, I don't want to do it any in service or disservice or anything like that. I don't even know if that's a word, but it is now. Anyways, I'm going to just refer to the collective group that spoke to me on desires as Q. Okay. Q said that the biggest key in our own thoughts, believe it or not, desires. Go figure. He says, because most of what we think, our thoughts, are based off of desires. It's in our desires and how to obtain those desires. That's what gives us our thoughts. I want a soda. Well, I desired to have a soda. It gave me a thought, so I'm going to go get it. I'm going to go act on it. Do you see? Are you following? Those of Q or Quo, maybe is what I can get. He says that the desires, or they say that the desires are the very thing that fuels this engine of illusion we have going on. That is massive. Sit on that for a moment. Our desires are the very thing that fuels the engine of illusion that we have going on. Whether those desires are good or bad, profitable or unfortunate, those in this realm or this density or in this lifetime have the ability to experience and appreciate desires. Our instinct for desires is as vital to us. Lost my place. Hold on. Is as vital to us as our instinct is to survive. That makes sense. When we focus our thoughts, we find very easily desires in those thoughts. Think about it for a second. Those desires range from everything you can imagine to some that you may not even begin to imagine. But in those desires, as some may have already found out, those desires may not always be good for us. Some may find their desires leading them down a path that now becomes harmful to them or others around them. Thus, in learning how to work with desires in a positive nature, it is important that we learn to ask ourselves in those moments of those desires, ask ourselves that these desires that have become more than just that, because at this point, if you're drinking every day or if you're smoking a cigarette every day, every hour, every minute, it's become more than a desire, has it not? So what he says is these desires have become more than just that, like an addiction to something, alcohol, smoking, drugs. It's those types of desires that when confronted, we need to sit and ask ourselves, is this a preference or has it now become an addiction? Those of Q have said that before, that it is not that desires are bad or good. They are just simply things that create a bias. So true. It's when one moves further down that road of quenching their desires, then it becomes an addiction. So for instance, in the lesser evolved spirit, or one that may be a bit more rambunctious with their desires, may have what we see or known as, in this density, addictive personality. Makes sense. Okay, their feeling is that if they don't have this, they won't be well. Or if they don't have something, they won't be all right. Or if they have something, they'll be fine. They can function at that point. That is the logic and the thinking of a desire in a spirit that is hooked on something, if you will. But if we actually sit with ourselves and our addictions, maybe instead of telling ourselves that we have to have it in order to function, maybe downplay that or turn it back around to say something like, I don't need this. It's not doing me any good. I would prefer it this way, but I guess I don't really need to have it this way. I'm not addicted or married to the outcome of it doesn't go my way. Play it down that desire. He says, in the same note, be careful what you wish for, folks, because it's a saying for a reason. Those who find themselves desiring in vain or with little heart will find themselves living a very uncomfortable illusion, because any thought and desire that is put out there or thought of will eventually will set the wheels in motion for you to obtain that goal. But in wishing, with such shallow and less than caring and pure intent ways, you'll find yourself, well, you'll find that the universe feeds it right back to you, but in a very superficial, shallow way. Say that 3 times. Anyways, I'm going on 10 minutes, so I am going to continue on here, but I'm going to stop after a minute because he does have a remedy for that. Like I said, they always come through with remedies, which is great. So you always need remedies if you're going to deal with the problem, huh? Anyways, okay, so I was blessed to have this encounter with Q, and Q usually comes to me on a subconscious nightly realm, so that's great. But in trying to figure out how to deal with the process of this desiring of mine and how to make it into a positive nature, I was assured that if I had the purest intent at the moment of my desire with the ability for that desire to bring good for all, then it would be fulfilled. But in dealing with how to make it happen, I was told to look at desires as though I was falling in love with something. For as Q says, it's 11:11, certainly the desires of the heart are deeply felt and etched in the soul with love. That's kind of cool. The yearning for that effortless flow of living is always a constant, which we often experience here. And trust that those moments of joy are never enough. At least for us here, we all know that. But understand that those moments are available to us on a daily. We actually have it within us to make it happen. So how, you ask again? How do you quench those desires? By disciplining our thoughts when we sit for a moment. So I'm going to stop here because we're going on 12 minutes. I am going to do a follow-up, of course, but we're going to continue on with these desires because, like I said, there's always remedies. And you got to have remedies when you're trying to deal with addictions and desires that have apparently gone astray. So, and I still have to share my dream that happened right afterwards because that was interesting. Anyways, thank you for hanging out with me for a moment. Blessings to you. And thank you so very much for just hanging out.